In this video, we are looking at lesson number 2 in your textbook. The title of that lesson is Determine Main Idea and Summarize Text. This is one of the most important reading lessons that you'll ever see, at least this skill is. Determining main idea is probably the number one reading skill, in my opinion. I use it every day. Summarizing text is another one that is so important, and the two go hand in hand. So I'm going to show you some strategies to be able to find main idea and also to summarize your text. This is a skill that you use in every subject, even in math problems. When you read word problems, you use this skill in those math problems. So let's get started. Excuse me. I am on page 4 in the textbook, but before we even do that, I want to give you some vocabulary words. Now, these are flashcard words. They are that important. So I would definitely practice these vocabulary words in your vocabulary section, but let's just review what they mean. The first one I want to tell you about is the word topic. Topic is the subject of a passage. A passage can be a paragraph, it can be several paragraphs, it can be pages, but the subject of that passage is the topic. And the thing you want to remember about a topic is that it's only a few words. It's very often the title of a passage. So if your passage has a title, that's going to be your topic. The topic will help you find the main idea. And when I was learning these, I had a really hard time with this. I'm a math person. My world is numbers and formulas and all of those kinds of things, shapes and graphs. I don't do well with reading. So I had a really hard time with topic and main idea. Main idea is a sentence that tells what a passage is mostly about. The main idea includes the topic, but they're not the same thing. And I'll show you how this works as we get into some of these practice passages. But I want you to know at this point that topic and main idea are not the same thing. They have very different purposes, but they are definitely related. And then the final term for this lesson is details. And I'm making this plural, more than one, because a good paragraph will have lots of details. Details are the pieces of information they're not necessarily sentences. They're just pieces of information that support, or let's say that tell about, the main idea. And I know right now, if you're not, if you haven't had a lot of experience with studying reading, these may be a little bit confusing. But if you bear with me, I think you'll be fine. We're going to look at each one of these in detail. We're going to do this in a lot of practice passages. Okay, here is our example. This is on page 4. Okay, here is our example. This is on page 4 of the textbook. And this is at the top of page 4. It's up there by the butterfly picture. That is a monarch butterfly, by the way. So this little paragraph is giving us information. The purpose of this paragraph was to give information. So I'm going to use my highlighter. Actually, I'm going to read it first. So just read along with me at that top example. Monarch butterflies make a two-way migration. When it starts to get cold, millions of them fly south. They fly from the northeastern United States and Canada to Mexico. Some fly as far as 3,000 miles. In the spring, they fly back north. So I want to show you a little strategy that will help you to break down this paragraph and to really understand what it's saying. This paragraph is small. It's not the most difficult thing in the world to understand, but I want to give you the strategy using something small, and then we'll work up to something that's larger. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I want you to do this with me, is to draw a box just like so. And in this box, we're going to write two things. We're going to make a place for the topic and for the main idea. Remember, a topic is short, so I'm not going to need a lot of space for my topic. Main idea. Okay, looking back at this paragraph, in one word, let's say in 2 words, if you could only use 2 words, what would you tell me this passage is about? Well, it's about, if you look at the picture on that page, monarch butterflies. Okay. But what about the monarch butterfly? I want you to remember for just a second the story of Goldilocks and the 3 bears. Remember when Goldilocks went into the bear's house and there was a bed for Papa Bear, a bed for Mama Bear, and a bed for Baby Bear. Goldilocks went to Papa Bear's bed and it was too big. It was too much. She went to, was it Baby Bear's bed? And it was too small. She was looking for the one that was just right. And that's sort of the condition here. We need to have a topic that is big enough, but it can't be too big. It has to be really, really targeted and really specific. So monarch butterfly, that's a good start. But what about the monarch butterfly? Is it telling me what they look like? Is it telling me what they eat? Is it telling me about their life cycle? Is it telling me how long they live? It's not. It's telling me about their migration. That is the topic of this paragraph. Don't do this, but look at what I'm doing here. I'm going to erase this word. Would that work for a topic? No, because there are so many different kinds of butterflies. This one is too big. It's too broad. We need to know that it's about the monarch butterfly. This one is too narrow because it doesn't tell me what about the monarch butterfly. So we want our topic to be very, very specific, but not too specific and not too big. It has to be in that Goldilocks zone of being just right. But this would make a really good title for this paragraph if I needed a title. So then we go to the main idea. we've got our topic. We know that we're talking about monarch butterflies, and we're talking about their migration. And migration is travel from one place to another. Let me give you that. Let's make sure we are clear on what migration means. It is movement from one place to another. People migrate, other animals migrate. Movement from one place to another. Okay, so we know what migration means. We're talking about the monarch butterflies moving from one place to another. And what do they tell me about that movement? What is it about the migration that's special? Monarch butterflies make a two-way migration. So we need to put that down as our main idea sentence. It's actually right there. Monarch butterflies make a two-way migration. So I'm going to start with the word monarch. I'm going to copy that sentence exactly the way it's written. Now I want you to know the main idea sentence will not always be written out for you. Sometimes you will have to find your own sentence. You'll have to write your own sentence. Sometimes it's the last sentence of your paragraph. It may be in the middle of your paragraph. It is not always the first sentence. And that's one mistake I made when I was learning this. I thought it's always the first sentence, and that's what I always picked. But it is not always the first sentence. But we have a main idea and a topic from this passage. This is the bare bones of your passage. This is sort of the skeleton of the passage. Now we're going to add some flesh. We're going to add some features to this skeleton that will flesh it out and make it be what we want it to be. So let's start looking for details. So with details, I want you to remember this. Back up here at details. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Those are good ways to question yourself about details. Ask yourself the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, and the how. So this first detail that I'm looking at is the when. It even has the word when right there. When it starts to get cold, millions of them, what is them? Millions of monarch butterflies fly south. So there's a when and there's a where. And we want to write those down. So the first thing I want to do is draw a spoke off of that main idea, and we're going to tell when it starts to turn cold. Now, when does that happen? What season is that when it starts to turn cold? That's winter. That's an inference. The passage doesn't say it's winter, but I know that's true because I've lived long enough to know that. So when is winter? Where? And for this one, I'm going to draw a diagram because in my world, things are in diagrams. They fly south. They move from north to south. All right, so I have the when and I have a where. Here's the next sentence. They fly from the northeastern United States and Canada to Mexico. That's another where, and you can absolutely have more than one. You may have a whole paragraph that's nothing but wheres. but ask yourself, what question is that answering? It's telling me where. And I'm using a diagram again. They're coming from the northeastern United States and Canada. And they're flying in a southward direction to Mexico. And actually, that's not directly south, but that's okay. We'll leave it that we don't need to get bogged down in the details. We just need to understand the details. So there is the green. I don't know what happened there. My iPad is behaving rather oddly at the moment. That's not an unusual thing. Okay. And Canada down to Mexico. This pink one was the when. The where is to the south. Okay, so I'm trying to show you the structure of this paragraph. You see how each of those sentences is becoming a detail. Okay, the third one, I'm going to make another spoke coming off of here. And let me zoom in. Some fly as far as 3,000 miles. As far as 3,000 miles. So this is, again, I guess, a where. I guess that's the best classification. Where. Imagine that, guys. One of these little butterflies as far as 3,000 miles. So imagine that trip again. Again, I like diagrams, so we're talking about the trip south is about 3,000 miles. That's one direction. So I'm getting ahead of myself, sorry. There's flying south up to 3,000 miles. Okay, here's another where and also a when. In the spring, they fly back north. So in the spring, they turn the other way. They're moving to the north. And again, that is as far up to 3,000 miles. So yet another when. I need yet another color. Let's do orange. In the spring, they fly back north. So you see how I'm pulling those details out of this passage. And those details must support, they must relate to my main idea. All of it comes back to this main idea and topic. Okay, last thing here, I want to write a summary of this diagram. Because when I write the summary of the diagram, I will have the summary of the passage as well. So the first thing I want to start with is the who or the what. And in this case, it's not a who, it's a what. We're talking about millions. That's a how many of monarch butterflies. So put your topic in there. You wouldn't even have to put the millions, but since I didn't include it anywhere up here, I would like to put it here. I really should have put it in the pink area. Let's go back and do that actually. With the pink area, that's a detail. How many? We're talking about millions of these things. that was in that pink sentence. And I don't know how, I just overlooked that. I should have definitely put that in there, because how many is a detail that we want to always notice. Numbers are important. If you have a number in your passage, always make note of that. So millions of monarch butterflies, what do? They fly south. Remember, I'm not just copying my main idea. They fly south in the winter and return north. Sorry, I don't capitalize if I'm talking about the direction of travel. In the spring. You also never capitalize the seasons of the year. Millions of monarch butterflies fly south in winter and return north in the spring. That is a very good summary of this diagram. It's got the two ways that we talk about in the main idea. It has the topic included. This is a summary. The book says millions of monarch butterflies migrate south in the winter and north in the spring. So we're saying basically the same thing. A summary of this passage should include those pieces. And that is how you break down main idea and details. Let's try another example, also from page 4. But this time we have a test question when we get to that point. So here is page 4 again. This is the test example at the bottom of the page. Read the paragraph, then answer the question. Scientists keep track of the monarchs during the trip south. They note when monarchs begin to fly south. They record where adult monarchs are spotted as they travel to Mexico. Scientists collect some of this data themselves, but they depend on others to help. People help by reporting sightings of monarchs. So to do this one, I'll answer the question in just a minute, but first I want to map the passage. And you may be thinking, why is she going through all this when I can just pick an answer? The reason for that is I am trying to teach you how to break down a passage. If you know the answer to the question, you don't need to go through this. But if you don't know the answer, you have to be able to find it. And that's what I'm trying to help you understand how to do. So always in this box, we are going to list our topic, just a few words, and we're going to list the main idea. Which is going to be a sentence. Topic. In one word, what is this paragraph about? If you could only pick one word, what would it be? Well, let's look here. I see scientists, that's a who. They, that's the scientists. They record, that's the scientists. There's the word scientist again. They, that's the scientist. That's what this passage is about in one word. It's about scientists. But remember our Goldilocks condition. Is this enough? If I just write the word scientists. No, this is not enough. Because there are hundreds, if not thousands, of different types of scientists. A physician is a scientist. A person who builds motor engines for cars is a scientist. A person who develops vaccines for COVID is a scientist. A person who develops systems to carry electricity is a scientist. So we need to narrow down this term. This is too broad. What kind of scientists? Well, they're butterfly scientists. And I do want to use that term for now. I'm going to show you a little trick later. But for now, I'm just going to call them butterfly scientists because that's all I know at this point. So let's bring that down here. What are they telling me about these men and women? What purpose do these men and women serve? What job do these men and women do? Butterfly scientists, that sounds so weird, but bear with me, keep track of the monarchs. Remember, those are a specific type of butterfly. I'm going to capitalize that. During the trip south. This needs to be a complete sentence. This is my main idea sentence. Here's my topic. This time we're not focusing on the butterflies. We're focusing on the scientists who study those butterflies. That topic needs to be exactly right. Not too broad, not too small, but right exactly in the middle. Exactly what it needs to say. Okay, so let's pick out a detail. This is our main idea right here. Happens to be the first sentence, but that is not a rule. It won't always be the first sentence. So the first thing I see is they, which means scientists, note when monarchs begin to fly south. So that's the first thing the scientists do. This is a how. How do they keep track of the monarchs? So the first thing that I'm going to put down, again, this is a how. They note when migration begins. And remember, we're going south when migration begins. So somebody has to sit and watch for this process to start. And that's what these scientists do. They notice when the butterflies start to fly south. Okay, what's the next thing they do? That's the second spoke. They, meaning the scientists, record or write down where adult monarchs are spotted as they travel to Mexico. So they record where adult monarchs are spotted. That's another how. How are they doing this job? They record where adults are spotted as they travel south. And you see that I'm just using shorthand. I'm not writing a lot here. This is not a writing exercise. It's a reading exercise. So I'm just putting down the details as I find them. I don't care about grammar. I don't care about spelling. I just want to get my thoughts down in a logical way. Okay, next detail. Let me get a highlighter. I'll have to get a different color here. We'll do blue. Scientists, Here's another thing they do, another how. They collect some of this data themselves. Whoa, Nelly, I don't know what that was. So here's yet another spoke in this diagram, or another prong of the diagram. It's a how. So we know that scientists note, they record, and now they collect data. And I'll throw in the word themselves. So the scientists do some of the collection of data. Another detail, but that is signaling to me that the opposite is about to occur. They, meaning scientists, depend on others to help. So they do collect some data. Let's put another spoke on this square wheel. How does this process occur? Scientists depend on help from others. I see a pattern emerging here, and I'll show you what that is, but I want to give you a chance to see if you see it too. It has to do with verbs. Okay, this one, last sentence, says people, not scientists, but people, help by reporting sightings of monarchs. People help. So the who this time and the how, there's both a who and a how in this one. The who would be people. The how they help or what they do, report sightings of the monarchs. And why? Why do they do that? To help scientists. And I just lost my pattern. I thought we had one, but I'll show you what I'm talking about. The first four of these details were things that scientists do. We have note, record, collect, and depend. All of those are things that the scientists do. Those are verbs, they're action words. And then this last detail focuses on the people who help the scientists. So I thought my pattern was going to continue to all 5 spokes, but the last detail is about the people, not about the scientists. Okay, so let's look at the question. What is the main idea of this paragraph? Well, I'm going to take a picture of my main idea, and I'm going to put it right down here. Well, that's not going to work. Let me try something, because I want to show you how well this process will work for you. I'll just take a screenshot of that and copy it. Look at my main idea. That isn't going to work either, my friends. Let me try one more thing. I really want you to see this point, or I would not waste our time on this. Here we go. That's close enough. I'll delete it. Here was my main idea. Butterfly scientists keep track of monarchs during the trip south. Here we go. Look at your choices. and tell me which one it would be. A, scientists note when the monarchs fly south. That is true. That's this detail right here. But that's just one of the details. We have 4 others. Scientists track where adult monarchs are spotted. That's true, but that's just one of the details. Scientists keep track of the monarchs. I like that one. Or scientists depend on others to help track the monarchs. That's true, but that's just one of the details. We want the one that fits all of the details, and that is option C. Scientists keep track of the monarchs. And if you look at my main idea, that was exactly what I said. Butterfly scientists keep track of the monarchs during the trip south. That's your main idea. Now let's write a summary of this entire diagram. The summary has to include all of this, either directly or indirectly. So here we go. Let me put a place down here. So my summary goes something like this. Always talk about your who or what. Butterfly scientists are they the only who in this story? No. Butterfly scientists and ordinary people, because remember we have to include everything in that diagram, track monarch migration. Is it two-way migration? No. It says that the scientists track them as they move south. If I'm referring to an area of the country, I capitalize. Butterfly scientists and ordinary people track monarch migration to the south. That is a good summary of this entire diagram. It includes the main idea, but it also includes the ordinary people, not just the scientists. There's one thing I wanted to show you here with butterfly scientist. I don't like that term because I know there's a better term that would fit. So if you go to Google or your search engine of choice, I'm going to Google butterfly, and you see my Pizza Hut order there, scientist. That's not what I want to do, butterfly scientist. A butterfly scientist is called a lepidopterist. And this is just a word I want you to know, just in case you ever run across it. Lepidopterist. So instead of instead of butterfly scientist, I'm going to use that big proper word. I want you to know that word in case you ever see it, but I also wanted you to realize, let me spell this first, lepidopterist. I wanted you to realize that you can look up things like that on Google. If you don't know the scientific name, Google it, and that will help build your vocabulary. Lepidopterist. Let me check my spelling. Lepidopterist. I believe it's right. So you can call it butterfly scientists, or you can go a step further and put in the vocabulary. That is entirely up to you. But this is a wonderful opportunity to build vocabulary as you do these exercises. If there's a specific type of scientist, find out what that's called. Research that a little bit. And then if you see that again, you will know what it means. If you're tired of butterflies, we're going to be looking at a different passage in the next video. It's going to be about electric cars and gasoline cars. So I'll see you soon for that one, and I hope you have a really good day. Bye-bye.